through these 40 days as we remember Jesus Christ in the wilderness when he was fasting and seeking godly intervention. So I don't know, my sister Mollen, who I know happens to be a Catholic.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if yesterday I tried to look for her, but I didn't see her forehead because many there was that symbol of hash to show that they had attended. Good morning, Mollen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Robert. But guess what? Ash Wednesday for me, it means a lot because that's the time we're starting Lent, and this is a good period for us to really get back to the Lord and connect. You know, through fasting, there is a lot that comes. It's not just the prayer; it's not enough, and we know that from the history in the Bible that even when people felt like they were disconnecting from God, the only time they had to actually make sure that their prayers are being heard is through fasting. That's why it's important for us as Catholic faith. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go for that mass, but obviously in the spirit of Lent period and preparing for Easter, I am also willing to just, you know, take some time to reflect on what God has done for me and make sure that my prayers are heard, and that it can be done through fasting.
Well, I think that's very, very interesting because even the Pope actually asked all the Christian fraternity to use this Lent period, especially to focus on what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, to put them in our prayer. But if you didn't make it to church, I myself didn't actually get time. I thought I would, but I spent a minute, knelt down and prayed. But you could also use the 40 days to, you know, fast and do all the reflection that you need to just nourish your spirit, to nourish your soul, and to just invite the Holy Spirit in your life. Day to day, we honestly need it. Today is the 3rd of March, and it's actually it is the day the world gets to celebrate wildlife. Now, a lot has been challenging the wildlife, and when I actually was reading about it, I remembered back in the day when we used to be very excited to go to the zoo. I don't know whether you people really had those school trips. I was always among the first 10 people to pay for those trips. I would always nag my parents to make sure that you know, they get to pay for me. The zoo was always one of the most interesting, you know, things. I don't know if parents still take their children to the zoo these days.
Oh yes, yes. And of course, the name now changed to education, recreation, and preserving. There is so much that is there, and I think government has invested so much. Dear parent, if you've taken long to go to the zoo to take your children there, it is not the old zoo that we knew, Philo. Yes. Because now there's even accommodation. Yeah. There is a beach at the zoo where you can even conduct your wedding. Actually, I'm booking for that. Just at the lake shore.
Hey. Okay, that's a very, very important.
Is that an alert? Is that an alert that's supposed to
so beautiful.
Your wedding is
it's so beautiful, and they even in the middle of the water, they have built a hall that can have at least a conference. So just imagine you have a workshop. It is in the zoo, and then you have that. Oh, that is in the middle of the water. Yeah. Then you have a reception at the beach, how good it looks. Then there are animals and a modern canteen. I think government has invested so much in the zoo. Plus bring in new animals that we didn't have or we don't have here in Uganda, the white tigers. So much has been done there. So it's no longer the other funny structures and all that. There's so much modernity that has been done at the zoo.
For me, when we talk about the Wildlife Day as we celebrate, I tend to be interested how some of these species are being lost. And I'm glad that, you know, we bring out the issue of the zoo, because this is the only place that we're seeing most of the animals that we're unable to see. But in a world where we're talking about most of these species dying off, and I think what is most threatened so far on the African continent is the elephant. And over the time, we have seen that most of the species within the elephant family have actually gotten extinct. And worldwide, I think it's the polar bear. We have, you know, read things sometimes just in the books and in the movies, but the bears are no more. The only ones left to the extreme side, because they can only bear with cold weather and the snow. But once that starts melting away, then we are losing the polar bear, and that is why it's on alert. Most of the species are being, you know, lost. So as we celebrate Wildlife Day, we also have to emphasize the fact that we need to preserve animals. We need to make sure that we have this for the future, and that's it for me.
I think also because I understand that the rest of the world is going to be creating awareness, creating all these campaigns to make sure all that is put into consideration, but also discussions concerning some of the problems that are really hindering the wildlife today need to be put on the table. Things like the habitat change, things concerning the illegal tracking, exploitation of all this, because at the end of the day, when you look at the wildlife, it has a lot to do with us, our ecosystem, but it also has to do with the food supply chain. You would actually not believe it, but it has a lot to do with that. So yes, all these discussions need to be put onto the table. And by the way, this you don't have to leave to the government, to the stakeholders, but it also starts with you as an individual. Preserve the wildlife, support it, get into these protests that are very helpful, constructive, and get into the campaign awareness. Educate yourself. There is nothing more important than you having the information that you actually need to make sure that we protect and we also conserve this wildlife. Well, we also need to take a look at some of the stories that made it to the news desk last night, locally and on the international scene.
We'll kick it off with what transpired yesterday in Parliament, where Kenyena Municipality Member of Parliament Francis Zake snapped to appear before, that is, the Rules, Privileges and Discipline Committee of Parliament. Kenyena Municipality Legislator Francis Zake snapped the proceedings of the Parliamentary Committee on Rules and Discipline, saying it lacked impartiality and independence required by the Constitution. Zake is accused of insulting the sanctity of Parliament after a tweet in which he used offensive language to express his dissatisfaction with the Deputy Speaker's remarks regarding his alleged torture.
And in another story, police on narcotics. Now, police has destroyed kilograms of narcotics worth 787 million shillings at Zambia police barracks. Now, the drugs were seized from the drug traffickers at Entebbe Airport between November 2020 to December 2021. Entebbe Magistrate Justin Nachitende commended the anti-narcotics officials and other security agencies for ensuring drug traffickers do not use the country as a safe haven to do their trade. Commissioner Narcotics Zarugaba Tinka added that drug abuse has an effect on the lives of youth, most of whom are addicted to them and are living with complicated health and social issues.
And away from efforts to crack down on narcotics in this country, we now move to infrastructure development, where the Minister for Works and Transport, General Katumba Amala, yesterday inspected the progress of Busega Mpigi Express Highway, where he confirmed that most of the issues that had derailed its completion have been fixed, and he's optimistic that the road will be ready by 2025, despite the challenges faced. General Katumba urged the community to cooperate during the construction of this road.
Back to Parliament, we talk about social assistance grants for empowerment. Now, government has refuted claims that older persons have not been paid for the last 8 months. Henry Musasizi, the Minister of State for Finance and General Duties, debunked allegations by Chegegwa Women Member of Parliament Flavia Kabahebwa, who requested government to introduce a supplementary budget to cater for the areas of older persons under government's program of social assistance grants for empowerment, which is named SAGE.
It's day 7 of the Ukraine-Russian war, and a lot is happening. A lot is actually getting to that intensity beat. However, some of the updates coming in from there is that the UN General Assembly demands Russia stop its offensive in Ukraine. The vote was 141-5 with 35 abstentions. And Russia says its troops have taken Kherson as it continues to bombard Kyiv and Kharkiv. Pentagon also says Russian convoy north of Kyiv remains stalled due to regrouping and logistical challenges. UN says 227 civilians have been killed and 525 wounded in Ukraine. More than 1 million people have fled, it actually adds. And Russia says second round of talks with Ukraine will take place in Belarus today. And Russian forces have seized control of a key port city in southern Ukraine, according to the mayor. Kherson is the first major city to be taken by Russia after heavy fighting since it invaded a week ago. Its mayor, Igor Koryakev, said Russian troops had forced their way into the city council building and imposed a curfew on residents. Several cities have come under intense shelling, with Wednesday one of the most destructive days of the fighting. An investigation into possible war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Ukraine has been launched by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Russia has for the first time admitted taking heavy military casualties during its attack on Ukraine, with 498 troops killed and a further 1,597 injured. Ukraine says Russia's losses run into the thousands. Ukraine reports that more than 2,000 civilians have died since the invasion began last Thursday. Now, the conflict has also caused 1 million people to flee Ukraine, the UN's High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, said. In a Facebook post, Mr. Kolikev said Russian forces were in control of Kherson, a port on Ukraine's southern Black Sea coast with a population of more than 280,000 people. He urged Russian soldiers not to shoot at civilians, saying there were no Ukrainian forces in the city. Mr. Kolikev called on residents to follow conditions set by Russian forces in order to keep the Ukrainian flag flying. Now, these include observing a strict curfew from 20 hours to 6 hours, only going out in groups of 2 at most, and allowing only cars carrying food, medicine, and other supplies to enter the city, driving at minimum speed. Now, the capture of Kherson, located on the banks of the Dnieper River, where it flows into the Black Sea, is significant because it could allow Russia to create a base for the military there as it is seeks to push further inland. Now, still on the Ukrainian-Russian war, the delegation of the European Union to Kenya has denied reports of discrimination against Africans leveled at member states bordering Ukraine. More than 200 Kenyans were stranded in Ukraine due to Russia's invasion, according to a press release from the bloc. Now, the EU regrets the incorrect and skewed media reporting on this issue that has repeatedly appeared in various Kenyan outlets and social media, and calls for careful verification of the facts. This is according to the press release. Now, given that in some cases deliberate disinformation is being spread, the EU embassies present in Kenya are ready to provide accurate data, it continued. Poland, Slovakia, Hungary and Romania have granted unrestricted access to those fleeing the conflict in neighboring Ukraine, including Kenyans, the delegation said. Contrary to some media reports, those Kenyans who have arrived at the borders have been assisted and allowed to enter safely into EU member states. The statement continued. Numerous African students in Ukraine have shared stories of being blocked by Ukrainian security agents from leaving the country. Now, Ukraine is not a member of the European Union. The African Union has condemned the reports of discrimination.
Report reveals heat rising in north and south, Sahel getting wetter. Now, Africa needs to prepare better for climate change by responding to a wide range of potential risks, a multi-agency report led by the UN's World Meteorological Organization said, the first in a series of continent-by-continent assessments. In recent months, we have seen devastating floods, an invasion of desert locusts, and now face the looming spectre of drought because of the La Nina events. The human and economic toll has been aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic, as WMO Secretary General Pateri Talas said in a statement. The report aims to fill a gap in reliable and timely climate information for Africa, which translates into a lack of climate-related development planning, said Vera Songwe, Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary at the UN's Economic Commission for Africa. Africa has been warming progressively since the start of the last century, and in the next 5 years, northern and southern Africa are set to get drier and hotter, while the Sahel region of West Africa will get wetter. WMO's Regional Strategic Officer Director Felipe Lucio told a press conference. Overall, Africa needs to take action that is needed today in terms of adaptation, but also is needed tomorrow in terms of mitigation, Lucio said. The agriculture sector is the key to building climate resistance since it is the dominant employer and relies on the use of water and energy, both heavily implicated in this report.
Well, while we are still actually discussing the Ukrainian-Russian war, the Ukrainian government has come out to actually acknowledge that the racism happening, especially to the Africans who are trying to find their way out of the country, is real, and they did condemn it. Now, in the last couple of days, we did see quite a number of other states, and especially the African Union, express how disgruntled they were and how disappointed they were, especially considering the way the African students and residents who have been there for a while have been treated. We have seen quite a number of them being denied to get onto some of those trains. We've actually seen them being pushed to be among the last people to access these trains to get out of the city center. Even when there was a directive that women and children board these trains first, we could actually see that African mothers, African children were being pushed to the back to be among the last people. There was a whole lot of a brawl between there, but we love the fact that the Ukrainian government did accept this, and they were very apologetic about it, and also, yes, did agree that these are humans, they all deserve to have some peace and to also find their way around it. Well, we hope all the best for everybody who is trying to get peace, and indeed we need to use this time to make sure we reflect and also put these people in our prayers, because there is nobody who wants to be at war, honestly.
I did see an interesting story last night of a Ugandan who was trying to help. Now, this gentleman was working with a Korean national to make sure that they help with getting, Africans into Poland.
Yes.
And that was very commendable work. And also, the Ugandan embassy in Ukraine has also come out to circulate contacts of, the Ugandans who were there to be able to reach out. And also, I think there is another body, a consulate that has called upon all Africans who are in Ukraine and stuck there to actually get to those contacts and make sure they're helped. Because I'm telling you, in this era, it's hard to fight racism. This has been there. And even at the time of, life or death, you can see it clearly. They will prefer the white people to cross first. So I think in times when we're looking at racism as a fact, then you have to fend for yourself. This is where I would easily call upon all black people, Ugandans out there, just get into, contact with your embassies. Maybe they can be helped there, other than you being stuck at the border and you can almost, lose your life, because there are people actually dying from this whole crossing over. So it's just sad that we're still seeing issues of racism, even in such kind of issue. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think we must commend is the European Union coming out clearly on this.
Yes.
And stating their stand, because this was being awaited for, to know either is this a policy, because international refugees, these are refugees, they are running away from trouble, should never be denied access or entry anywhere. These are life-threatening conditions, so all countries internationally are mandated to open their borders to allow in refugees, and we hope this is not just lip service or PRO, but in reality, this is going to take course, and we see all Africans that are there being treated equally in terms of looking for safer havens at such a situation.
Well, we can only hope and pray for the very, very best. Well, it's about the time. It's a very cold Thursday morning, but I hope Robert has something that will probably warm you up a bit, to make sure that he adds that extra warmth, to this cold morning of yours.
When you talk about a cold morning, we're in March and the rains have begun. One thing that comes to my mind is the reality that we are going to have coughs, flus, and as we speak, I don't know, but many places I've moved to, people have cough, people have flu.
Especially the children, by the way. Yes. I've got reports that pediatricians are really very busy. I don't know what's happening, all the colds and the infections among us, the kids, the children, the toddlers.
The cold weather does affect them most, because you find that the rate at which as adults we adapt to cold weather is different with kids. So that's why for them it's more of an effect on children than the adults. But in due course, when we start to go into the season and more cold weather is coming through, there's going to be a lot of this. But also remembering that this is the time when mosquitoes are actually breeding, so that's where we expect more malaria cases as well. So Robert, that is where you come in.
Well, these drinks, none of them has 18 and above. You know, hallelujah tamarind, hallelujah jingeti, none of them is for age 18 and above. So they are safe for consumption. And they contain ingredients that we used over the years, our great parents used to fight coughs, to fight off flu, and of course to boost the immune system. So at just 1,500, run to the nearest retail shop and nearest supermarket and get a bottle of this. Very tasty. I know many children will enjoy taking this for break or lunch. And the adults, there is this. Very, very tasty, and of course it will help you to boost your immune system, because the greatest thing is prevention has always been better than cure. So boost your immune system so that it's able to kick off a number of diseases.
Well, there you go. It's never too late for you to grab yourself one of those 2 bottles, or even, you know, both of them. Well, like every single morning, we do expect you to be with us in conversation concerning the question that we always bring to the table, to have your thoughts, to have you fully engaged. Now, the IALA plenary sittings recently resumed, and several things were brought to the table, but also several other suggestions were brought to the table. Now, the recent one was to actually have all the East African airlines to merge into one. This morning, we want to know, we want you to share your thoughts. What are they, especially on the merge of all airlines, to have East Africa Airlines as proposed by the East African community? Do you think it will yield results? This has been happening. People have been wishing for it, but you think it will be very effective? That right there is what we want to hear from you. And of course, you can always use the usual mediums to get to us. And the hashtag on Twitter is UBCGMU. Do give us your feedback, but also you can send us an SMS text or even a WhatsApp message. The number is 0709 602 592. We'll definitely be sharing some of your thoughts, some of your opinions to the entire world. Well, today being a Thursday, of course, we'll be giving you that throwback jam to take you back to the good old days, to make sure we reminisce some of the memories. You have any memories attached to this song? Well, it would be, I hope they're only beautiful, beautiful memories. I don't know why, but I clearly see that Robert is really excited about this. I think it brings a little bit of nostalgia to him.
Maybe he's taken back.
Throwback. That is where we used to dance to music that has a purpose. You never had songs where you repeat one word and then they ask what was the meaning of that word. You clearly tell the word that it had no meaning.
Are you tarnishing today's music?
No, you see,
because
these days the music you dance to. Those days, the music these days you dance to, Philo.
Yes.
An artist just has to have the beats that will make you the Chidongo dance.
Our
days, those days when we were the youth like you,
yes,
it all had to be about meaning. You listen to a song, even if it was a love song, a song of passion, the way the words would be put, the beat would allow you even hear each word in that song. But today,
I will just
even the names of artists are here, Kapakati.
Ruben calls this kind of music pomini music. I really never understood.
Even the names of your musicians. For us, those days, the bands Westlife, an artist would have a proper name. You hear Simanyi's ex Biranji Kapakati.
Hey.
Funny names, and you like, what is happening?
Anyway, Throwback Thursday is always about nostalgia, and that's exactly what we are going to do. And also we hope that it can give you some bit of inspiration. But when we get back, it will be the Good Morning Uganda newsreel where we'll be having the topical discussion, and later on we'll also be taking you to the roads for some of the traffic updates that we'll be giving you by yours truly. And thereafter, Mollen will also be here with the climate news and the weather forecast, and we'll be having, in the next hour, we'll be having Robert take you down the road of GMU agenda. Not forgetting, Ruben will also be here with some of the sports. Remember, we are streaming live on YouTube, so you can carry us anywhere, in your office, your home, anywhere. We are readily with you. We'll be back right after this song.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala is Good Morning Uganda.
It's exactly 4 minutes after 7 a.m. on this Thursday morning, the 3rd of March 2022. Thank you once again for staying with us right here on Good Morning Uganda, and welcome specifically to Good Morning Uganda Newsreel. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, and of course I am with Robert Kirabo, where we get to discuss some of the topical, where we get to discuss some of the things that are making the headlines in our country, Uganda, and everywhere. Now, this very morning, we want to totally talk about something that did happen quite a few days ago, and it has caused quite some noise amongst the public, but even among the practitioners, and especially, to be very specific, when it comes to the medical practitioners. Now, last Tuesday, just a few days ago, Tuesday, we saw that the State House Health Monitoring Unit did arrest the Executive Director for Mulago National Referral Hospital, Dr. Byarugaba Baterana, because of several cases that they actually put on him, and all of these were concerning the mismanagement of the hospital. They did have queries when it came to how some of the money was used, equipment, medicines, just to mention but a few, but also they said there was a whole lot of fraudulent use and There was failure also of accountability of about 28.8 billion Ugandan shillings, which definitely zeroes down to quite cases that people would say it's corruption. Now, the government of Uganda, we have seen in the last couple of years, come up with several initiatives to make sure that, you know, they get rid of corruption in all these government ministries, government parastatals, you know, all institutions, to make sure that we have no corruption at all. Actually, at one point, we did have Chisanja Hakuna Mchezo, zero tolerance to corruption. Robert, now, before we get into all this, maybe you can explain this new, you know, this new establishment, this new move. What does it mean for Uganda as a country? Does that actually show that there is a group of people who are actually monitoring to make sure that all this corruption has to go down, especially in all these government institutions?
First, I want to bring to attention of Ugandans, Philo, that when you look at our country as Uganda, corruption is a cancer.
Yes.
And sometimes when we talk about corruption, we don't bring it out to people to better understand. Now, when you look at our budget for financial year 2021, 2022, we have a budget of about 44.7 trillion Uganda shillings. And when you look at the IGG's report, Honorable Betty Kamya, Uganda every year we lose 10 trillion. Now, if you have a budget of 44.7 trillion and you're losing 10 trillion, I think that is more than 10%
Yes.
of your budget is being lost. So, to a Ugandan there, just think about how many hospitals we have constructed in 10 trillion, not billions, we're talking of trillions.
Yes.
This is the magnitude of what corruption is doing in our country. And just to take our viewers back, in 2009, there was a lot of public outcry regarding the health sector in this country. Medicines were disappearing like nothing. Absenteeism, money is meant to buy drugs were being misappropriated. So the president, with his wisdom
Yes.
and powers given to him under our constitution as amended in 1995, using Article 171, he set up the State House Health Monitoring Unit. It was once headed by now the current actual Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, Dr. Diana Atwine, and this was very vigorous. I'm not saying today it is not, but was more vigorous by then.
Yes.
And when we see such coming up, to me it's good news. It is good news that we are seeing where this unit is performing its role, because it was set up, that is, it had a mandate of monitoring health services. That includes the funds, the medicine, the services offered, and the staff therein. Now, on Tuesday, this very week, we saw the Health Monitoring Unit arrest as the Executive Director of Mulago. And because the mistake we are doing as a country, every time we see people arrested for corruption, we don't look at it very vividly as a national problem. When we had Chogam issues, once our Vice President was arrested over misappropriation of funds, I want to tell you, I saw Uganda Caucus going there. Then we saw the Catholic, by then one of the leaders, I want to mention, of the Catholic Church going there. So we tried to make it kind of an issue of tribe, selectiveness. Yesterday I saw funny youth, I hear from Kanungu, protesting such. These are investigations, and that is why I'm tempted to give some of the reasons that this unit has given as to why they carried out that arrest. One, it is clear that they're investigating the loss or mismanagement of about, that is 28.8 billion Uganda shillings. Now, the Executive Director of Mulago Hospital was arrested first between, that is July 2019 and between July and June 2019 and 2021. It is believed that about 974 million was mismanaged, and vouchers amounting to 5 billion Uganda shillings cannot be accounted for. That is one, is at the epitome of Mulago Hospital. Then another area where they're investigating are allegations that Mulago Hospital contracted a firm to carry out medical repairs of these equipments. So this farm, according to the State House Health Monitoring Unit, these farms were unqualified. They had forged cards of certificate,
so that they can get this.
So that forged cards of jobs, forged certificates, and there was so much duplication of work, and these were paid 20 billion Uganda shillings. Not qualified, doing work that they don't understand,
very, very shoddy
and
work.
Everything that they presented to get this contract was forged. But Mulago went ahead and paid them 20 billion. The other issue where they are investigating is that Mulago, in its premises, it hosts two pharmacies.
Yes.
That is first pharmacy and then another one. Now, these pharmacies, Mulago Hospital contracted them to offer medicines that they believed National Medical Store had run out of stock. However, what is funny, that when these pharmacies were contracted to provide, when they provided the first bunch, the Burns unit hosted in Chirudu said, what you're giving us, we don't need. But over a time, Mulago continued paying them for services they are not giving.
Yes.
You get that? And here also, monies were lost to a tune of 1.4 billion shillings. So Philo, you say I'm giving a service, but what is actually happening? Those people you're supplying to are no longer taking supplies, but continuously the hospital is paying these two pharmacies housed. Then also they're investigating alleged operation where they see that these pharmacies, first and foremost, even their contract, the memorandum of understanding, never followed the due process. That is why we are seeing that the executive director and 5 others are now being charged of, that is a false accounting of government funds, abuse of office, embezzlement, and causing financial loss.
Yes.
So just throw more light why this man is being detained at Ginger Road Police Station. And of course, they did not reveal the 5 others that they are investigating. But one thing that comes out here, Philo, is the fight against corruption in our country. One, the very laws sometimes we talk about as weak have been able to nab a number of people in this country. If you look at what is happening with the former executive director of Uganda Red Cross, convicted, sentenced.
Yes.
We have the likes of Kazinda, former principal accountant, office of the Prime Minister. He's been there, he's tried to use the law, appeals and all that. He's not been let off the hook. That it says Tediche, the Jimmy Ramafas. But the biggest problem in our country against this fight is selective justice. That many times when you look at this report, 10 trillion lost annually, one would ask, where are the people that have caused these losses? I believe there is so much we need to do. Where there is a will, there is a way. But sometimes Uganda, you reach a point where you wonder why these laws are able, why these institutions are able to nab certain people and they are failing to nab other people. That is a question. Is this selective justice? Because we can't say that they don't have the capacity.
They actually do have
over and over they have proven where interest has been. That the laws we have in Uganda can arrest you for corruption. I don't want to believe Kazinda is the most stupid person ever to be in an office that he stole and he can be arrested and then he can't pass through the law, juggle all these tricks and get off the hook.
Yes.
But where you have some people that are even known, of course in our country our laws are clear, one is presumed innocent until proved guilty by a competent court. But where I come from, there is what we say, I hope I'm not offending anyone, that there are people who have been in saga after saga after
continuously. It has become a pattern that has failed to be broken.
What you see is new appointments, new jobs. Where is the moral authority? Where is that? So what are we showing?
Somebody needs to actually
So for me, I
question
don't
the
want to
authority,
believe anyway that we have weak laws in our country. Today, the executive director of Mulago was arrested. The State House Anti-Corruption Health Monitoring Unit does a very good work. Same like the State House Anti-Corruption Unit with now a new head. They do a very good work. Some of these commissions we had the Catherine Bamugemerere Commission,
Yes.
that is the Land Commission. They unearth, they bring to book. But what happens next is when it goes to the courts of law. There, evidence beyond reasonable doubt, cases take long, some to eternity. We see sometimes the state loses interest. So, Ugandans are no longer excited with the arrests. If you're talking about 28.8 billion,
yes.
we've had 40, 50 billion. Police comes out, you're investigating, the reports come out, this money was lost. At the end of the day, arrests are not excitement. What happens at the end of the tunnel is what Ugandans are now looking at. But many of these we have seen. Media, we've reported.
Yes.
It's not shocking now that the media reports that so-and-so has been arrested over misuse, abuse of office, amounting to this amount of money. What makes news is so-and-so has been convicted, sentenced, arrested, and where possible, money is recovered through maybe properties he bought. This is what makes news to us.
Well, it's very, very interesting that we are looking at some of the causes of this corruption, especially in these government institutions. Now, maybe before we get into why it's happening consistently, why it's a pattern, and probably what can be done to make sure that the laws are really driven into effectiveness, let us, first concentrate at the plight of Mulago. Right now, in the current state, Mulago National Referral Hospital is having a management crisis, and we can already see that the person, the ED, is a medical doctor. Now, the Uganda Medical Association has heavily condemned this, and they actually vowed to make sure they follow up on the case, and they're actually saying that Dr. Baterana has been, he was arrested on an unfair ground and that he should be given a fair hearing, which we totally understand. But then also this makes me think, does Mulago Hospital really need a medical doctor to be the head? Because or we need somebody who has an MBA who can actually do all these managerial responsibilities. The reason why I ask is that he's a very good doctor. So if you put him in a managerial position, it clearly shows that we are going to have to lose a good doctor because of him being a bad manager. These are two contradicting things. Now, they did replace him with his deputy to run, for the meantime, as they, consider to get somebody else. But really, this has been his deputy. All this has been happening while he's there. He's still managing this position. Do you really think it's going to change anything? Or do we actually have to get somebody with an MBA who can run an institution professionally? Just to avoid losing a good doctor because he's a bad manager. Even if they bring in a new doctor, it could be the same, same case.
First, I'm in for someone in that profession, managing people in that profession, because you better understand their challenges.
Yes.
You better understand. You see, if you took an accountant or someone who did business administration to manage an hospital, he may not know certain issues regarding the plight of doctors, But this is a senior doctor who has been at it. He knows what it means, how urgent certain procurements must be done and all that. So for me, if you talk about a media house being managed by someone who's a journalist, I'm in for that because they better understand the challenges. They have been at it professionally, they know the ethics, they understand this better.
Yes.
Whether his deputy is now acting, I think for me that is something I would believe. The good thing is investigations are still going on.
Yes.
And we are told there are other 5 top officials being investigated. We don't know who those are, according to the State House Health Monitoring Unit. So this is a transitional period. But of course, even with our country, when we go to laws, you might find that today is out, tomorrow he even goes to court and is reinstated by court. So there are a lot of dynamics when you're looking at issues of corruption in our country. But at the end of the day is what happens now is going to shape the future of that hospital. We've been craving and saying we need to see the big fish.
Yes.
An executive director of Mulago Hospital is a big fish in my opinion. If you want to show a junior doctor, an intern doctor, that drug theft is a problem, and all the time we are seeing you arresting nurses. We've arrested a nurse with 5 injections, then 5 cartons of coaterum, then this. This is not deterrent. If you want to fight corruption, you begin with the big fish so that the juniors will know if the executive director was arrested in such a manner, then what will happen to you, a junior? So to me, I commend this act. Now, going to the medics coming up and saying that the way he was arrested first, condemning that arrest first, the anti-corruption, the State House Health Monitoring Unit, beg my pardon, was clear. He got summons. He didn't, according to them, respond to these summons. He said, even when I was arrested, they phoned me I was treating a patient. But he got summons. One would expect that, of course, a man of his stature, the office, he's called, you go, you're not arrested in that manner. Yes. But where summons have been issued and you don't turn up, then what happens? You have to be arrested and detained. But to me, we must treat corruption with harshness, not soft gloves. Because this is the only way we are going to set precedences. Because we've dallied in terms of corruption. I want to give you an example. In my profession, when PAC had just been established in Parliament, Philo, if someone was invited at that committee, they would even come shivering. Because you know it is trouble. Today, look at Kosase, look at PAC. You know, that seriousness, because the people then there were harsh people. People would fear. Today people are going for Kosase, they are laughing, they are smiling. You see the parliamentary committees. People are corrupt today and the person goes to court and is like nature chijakugwa. You know, people know this is going to last for a period of time, it's going to end. So the roughness, the rudeness, the harshness is what we must exhibit as a country if we are to fight corruption. And that is why sometimes I believe even these institutions, you know, some countries we benchmark. I'll bench a country like Singapore. Singapore had a president called Lee Kuan Yew. This man had his best man, because of corruption, arrested. And this was his very, very good friend. Now, when the rest saw what had happened, everyone alluded to this fact that if this person has been able to arrest his best friend, charge him long time imprisonment, then the rest will follow. But where we are still having corruption, now this person get police bond, go out, sometime beginning at the criteria of arrest, the manner of arrest, then from there gets court bail, then out, then because he has not been convicted, he's restated at his place of work.
Yes.
Who are you? Who is going to fear corruption? Who will fear? But the harshness. Countries like China, as you're being investigated, it's guaranteed you're not going to get, you're not going to be in an office. If it means changing some of our laws.
Yes.
A person is corrupt, confesses I stole government funds, then says I'm going to pay those, I'm going to refund the money. I'm going to refund the money. Then next is in another, appointed to another office. How deterrent? What precedents are we setting as a country? If corruption has been our biggest problem as a Ugandan, let's handle this with an iron hand. Let's stop dedaring. Today, the Medical Association, you're right to question the manner. Tomorrow it is your grandmother who is going to die. I talked of those youth I saw there. Young men, if we do not tame corruption, tomorrow it is going to be your wife going to give birth in a hospital where the equipment was repaired by an incompetent company. The scanners cannot show properly what is happening. They think it is a normal child, kumbe there are two twins. At the end of the day, you're going to lose your children, if not the wife. So corruption has a trickle-down effect. Today, you could be very comfortably.
Yes.
We are stealing this money. We can go through courts of law. But tomorrow, what you did is going to catch up with you. Because at the end of the day, you'll be out of these offices, your grandchildren, your children. One time, Philo, this is my final example in this submission. There was a person, I'm not going to mention the name, but I'll mention the office. This young man worked in KCCA, and I think he was heading enforcement. He was carrying out an operation in Ruzira there. Lives were lost. I think his bodyguard could even still be in detention. Somehow we managed to be off the hook. This young man was involved in an accident and lost a life. This is what happened. When he was taken to this facility, because of this poor health, where we have funny health infrastructure, that doctors do their things anyhow.
Yes.
They didn't give him preferential treatment that he got in this Luzira case, that he got because of connections at this office, and even I think he was arrested at work. So, by the time they knew who had passed on, they said, we didn't know it was him. He would have gotten some, you see,
yes,
preferential treatment. The other one was airlifted, of course taken for better treatment. So, when we deal down with corruption, it is going to catch up with us. The judges, the judiciary today, this health monitoring unit is doing a great work. It is saying this is what we have.
Yes.
Now you're going to go into your legal jargons, your terms. Money may exchange hands. At the end of the day, he has gotten bail. At the end of the day, he has gotten bond.
Yes.
He's there, and business is as if normal.
Well, I love the fact that you did talk about all these causes, how we are seeing some of these committees that are supposed to check the allegedly corrupt officials, supposed to do their job, but they have loosened up. Now, what would be your final submission on how we can actually make sure that all the measures that have been put into place, all these laws that have been put into place, how can they draw effectiveness in line of this? And meanwhile, before you actually get into that, we just need to remind you that the poll question is still running. And it goes, what are your thoughts on the merger of all airlines to have East Africa Airlines as proposed by the East African community? Hashtag is UBCGMU as always, and the number is 0709-602-592. Now, this is the same number where you can send a WhatsApp message or even send us an SMS text. Back to you, Robert.
First, clean the judiciary. Clean the judiciary. We want to say this, that there is corruption, there are incidents where even the blind can see.
Yes.
They are let off the hook at the levels of the judiciary. We know sometimes we allude to poor investigations, but we know there is so much that happens when these cases now formally begin to be heard and the judiciary is taking form. There is so much that has to be done in that particular arm of government. Judiciary, in the fight of corruption, you're doing Ugandans injustice. Yes. Sort yourself, clean yourselves. Then second, let's fight selective justice. As long as we still have selective justice in this country, that the same laws can nab so and so, fail to nab so and so, then the third one is, let's build morals in this country. If a person has been convicted, if a person has had, there's some people should say, if they can't themselves.
Yes.
Because you see, in the European world, someone would say, as they're investigating me, I choose to resign. If let's also, if you're an executive director, you're an appointing authority, there's so much that happens that morally does not cause deterrence. It's like you're praising the corrupt. A town clerk is accused of mismanaging funds here, is doing show, then is given another part. So here you stole, now let's transfer you. Someone was in public office, messed up, gets another appointment. To the young generation, what are you teaching them? And finally on this, let's all as Ugandans condemn corruption. Let's stop seeing corruption as attacking Uganda, attacking the Hororo, attacking the Catholics, attacking the Muslims. Let's look at this as a national problem. Let's let these courts work. Let's let the investigation machinery work. Let's all together condemn corruption.
There you go. Corruption has a trickle-down effect. Now, the best you can do is be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. And again, don't support the problem. If you see any corrupt official, you can actually do something about it. Don't be quiet about it, and don't really indulge 100%. Well, that's it for the newsreel this morning. We go, but when we get back, Good Morning Uganda will be here with a press review to take a look at some of the stories in the print media, and later on we'll be also having some traffic updates, and Mollen will also be here with something to do with the climate news and the weather forecast. Good Morning Uganda returns right after the break.
In March 2018, Total Energies launched the Welders Training and Certification Program aimed at improving the employability of Ugandans from the Albertine region and East African crude oil pipeline areas.
GIZ E4D project is working with Total Energies, where we are targeting to train at the end of it 350 welders, and we're expected to train more.
I see myself working maybe in the oil and gas industry, being an international certified welder, because I have acquired the skills.
I'm a lady, but doing something which is generally perceived to be for men. It makes you actually feel special. It makes you feel wow.
I am ready to support the oil and gas sector by being a quality welder. I thank you, Total, and I thank the government of Uganda.
Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
On the 3rd of March 2022, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, together with key partners, will be commemorating the World Wildlife Day. The theme of this year's celebration is recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. The celebrations will be held at the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. There will be a live broadcast showcasing the celebrations starting from 11 a.m. on UBC TV. Her Excellency Jessica Alupo, the Vice President of Uganda, will be the chief guest. This broadcast is powered by the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities with support from UA, UEC, EU, UNDP and the WWF.
Double MBs for the same price on daily bundles with Airtel. Now you get double MBs for twice your enjoyment. For 250 shillings, you now get double. That's 30 MBs. For only 500 shillings, you get 80 MBs. And for 1,000 Uganda shillings, enjoy 180 MBs. All valid for 24 hours. Dial *175 hash or use the My Airtel app to enjoy double MBs on your daily bundles for the exact same price with Airtel, the smartphone network.
National Medical Stores is a government agency mandated to buy, store and distribute medicines and medical supplies to government health facilities in Uganda. For Ugandans that we serve, help us serve you better by taking your individual responsibilities seriously. Report theft of government medicines and medical supplies to the nearest police station or to the State House Health Monitoring Unit. Do not pay for any medicines or medical supplies labeled Government of Uganda, not for sale. Do all that is within your means to stop all preventable diseases, including COVID-19. Continue observing the Ministry of Health Standard Operating Procedures, SOPs, including wearing a face mask whenever you are in public spaces. Visit a designated health facility to receive your COVID-19 vaccination and a booster dose for those that are eligible. Prevention is better than cure. National Medical Stores, passionate about your life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
In the news review this morning, starting off with the Daily Monitor, inside the sickness at Mulago Hospital. Now, the arrest concerning the investigators say they were tipped off by numerous complaints from hospital staff and concerned citizens about alleged gross mismanagement at the National Referral Hospital. And also taking a preview at Ash Wednesday, Christians start 40 days of Lent season. And also DM Today couples, he lied about us being in a relationship. And the EC unveils LC elections roadmap. And the lizard right here also says NSSF savers to start applying for midterm cash next week. And the lizard is asking, we will manage the retakes as they come. Well. And also art students to offer science courses. Quite interesting right there. But also art students will be given an offer of sciences at university. Now, I don't know how this is really going to work out, but the National Council for Higher Education has proposed that learners who offered art subject combinations at A-level should actually be allowed to, pursue undergraduate science courses. More of these details are definitely in the Daily Monitor. Maybe Mollen has something to say about this since she's the scientist right here on Good Morning Uganda. But the second page of the Daily Monitor, still more about Lent, and clerics are asking believers to make sure they use this time to, reflect. Okay, and they even say the war between the two countries of Ukraine and Russia is far away from Uganda, but it has an impact. Well, all that, the details, grab yourself a copy of today's Daily Monitor.
Well, I'm holding the new vision and the long-awaited for payout for NSSF. Now, it has a big headline there that registration for NSSF 20% payout begins, and applications are to be done online at Kololo. So get your and have details. Now, also, they do talk more about the chemicals in vegetables, what experts recommend. That will be in the new vision today. Paris Development Model Guidelines tabled. Now, government has also issued guidelines on the implementation. That is one you should be looking out for in the new vision. But also talks about Russia's mission in Ukraine, and right there, the Ukrainian president, and also as he was accusing Russia of what has been taking place, you can't count on that. And also, police is on the hunt for border gangsters. Now, this is something that police is really following up, as there has been rampant gangsters in the country. This is something to look out for. Now, big picture there on who is ITESO's interim Imorimo, and the new elect Imorimo also being shown there as culture councillors jubilated Paul Emolot from Tororo district, who is now elected as the interim Imorimo for the ITESO region, and that is right there at the very first page of the new vision. But also page 2 explains more about the application for NSSF midterm as it begins, and more on the opportunities in business. You can off a copy and have more of that there. They also explain the discounts at Harvest Money Expo that is forthcoming.
And switching to the sports segment right here in Daily Monitor, Rugumayo rolls sleeves for Magical Open debut. Now, he's seeking to actually become the first Ugandan to make a cut at the lucrative event. Well, we don't know how that will go. And if you are a lover of Formula One, well, Max Verstappen has signed a bumper new contract with Red Bull that puts him in the same pay bracket as Lewis Hamilton. Now, the details of these are crazy, and they are in here. And Ugandans are also eager for the first mixed martial arts. They're really hyped up, and everyone is actually looking forward to this. Moving on to the second page, SC Vipers extend lead as Kambale returns for Derby. And women under 17 team happy with Kampala select the 9th physical test. And also we look at about $100 for each Masaza final goal. And Chisano itches to represent Uganda. Well, this is really interesting. And also when it gets to the Uganda, the women's double game, In badminton, players are happy with lessons from Badminton Challenge. Well, time to look at what's happening in the sports New Vision.
Well, New Vision also goes on to tell you about Uruguaya's beginning magical journey, and that is still right there, highly anticipated. Can he win the shillings 500 million magical cash? That is one to actually very interesting there. But also a make or break month at KCCA as we look at KCCA's FC coach Molly Biekwaso's season. Well, they have been declining in season, but can they reverse that? That is also right there in the New Vision, but also talks about women with courage, and FIBA clinic fires up coaches and players, all in today's paper of the New Vision. So Nuba fought to the summit. They are showing you there Mary Nuba Wright and also her She Cranes captain Peace Proskovia, both established professional players in England, and right there also explaining their story as we celebrate Women's Month. Now, cash boom for SC Villa, also shown on page 2 to the sports side, and that will also be an interesting story over there. But Sunday is Cheptegei's return. Well, Joshua Cheptegei, well known, but still his return highly anticipated. We see what he brings out. Are you putting it to good use? A big headline over there in the New Vision Sports, as the sports minister Hanson Obua also explains much more of those stories in today's paper of the New Vision.
Well, before we get into some of the headlines in the Daily Nation, just to remind you about the poll question: what are your thoughts on the merger of all airlines to have East Africa Airlines as proposed by the East African community? Well, and of course, do share your thoughts. Do you think it will drive the economy high for all the East African countries? Because this was suggested by some of the members of the IALA sitting. Well, do really give us what you think. We'll be getting into it shortly, and you can also use the WhatsApp number 0709 602 592, and on Twitter the hashtag is UBCGMU. We'll be getting into it. Actually, just to start off with you, well, before we get into that feedback, just to take you through Daily Nation: fury over Ruto's vote rigging claim. Well, it's a lot, and knowing that the elections are somewhere around the corner, there is too much. Now revealed the fixing of Kalonzo Musyoka. Will he stand the game? Well, we are yet to find out. And also set to go on borrowing spree as members of parliament raise debt ceiling, about 9 trillion Kenyan shillings. That's quite a whole sum of money. So make sure you get yourself this Daily Nation to get more of these stories. Well, getting into the feedback, Chwezi Royal, you're saying, well, the bigger, the better, and of course, more strategic. Now, this concerns the poll question where we want to know what you think about the merging of all East African airlines to have the East African airline. And coming in from you, Richard, you're saying, well, I think it's really a good decision for all East African states for the aim to boost business and easy transportation of exports and imports. Well, thank you. And you're watching in from Mukono. Well, that's amazing. We are very, very grateful. So we have to also get onto the roads and see what's happening on this Thursday morning. And of course, it has rained. Like I always tell you, we've always had quite a chemistry between the rain and the roads. So this morning, I want to focus majorly on people who stay around Zambia. We also want to focus on the areas coming in from Makindye, people who are coming in from Muyenga. And I just want to give you some of these updates that you need to be ready for. Well, yes, the traffic is a bit crazy, yes, because I do see quite a number of red spots. So if you're going to use Chiwafu Road, if you're connecting from Gaba Road, if you're coming from If you're coming from Kalungu, if you're coming from Bunga, if you're coming from Muyenga and you're going to use that road, you need to be ready because there is quite a number of red spots right there. The traffic is heavy, especially if you're trying to access the city center. Quite a number of red zones that are dominating right there, but you need to be a little bit patient. You continue all the way from Gaba Road as you're trying to access the city center. But also if you're coming in from Muyenga, you know, you can use Bukasa Road. You know, you can also use Tanki Road. Now Bukasa Road is a very good option in this case because it's very free. It is it's a long stretch, the green stretch coming in from there to the city center. But also if you're using the Tanki Road, it's a good option because it's a bit free. The passage is up to you. You could decide to use that. Now all these roads definitely will take you to Chisugu. You also find yourself to Namongo Road, which are definitely some of the shortcuts that you use to get to the city center. Of course, going through areas like the 6th Street and the 8th Street, basically the industrial area, which is quite a free zone here. Now when you're accessing the city center, to avoid using the main road, which is the Jinja Road, you could use Station Road and Access Road, which is a good option so that you connect to the Entebbe Road and eventually getting you to that junction as you get into Kampala Road mainly. Now that junction is a bit fixed because it has some red dots right there showing you that it is a junction and indeed cars are joining the road. Well, that's it about the traffic updates this morning. I will officially hand you over to Mollen to give us more about the expectations when it comes to the weather forecast for today. Mollen.
Well, if you look into what we had, waking up today morning, there was a lot of rain that did come through across areas within the Lake Victoria Basin. But it was quite much, but short-lived. So at least by the time we got up early, it was already clearing, and thankfully to that, because I don't want to wake up to the rains. Philo, I think that most of the mornings you and I are early birds, so you don't want to encounter the rains. Yeah.
Well, it happens, but you have to dread them and get ready. Only just carry a sweater maybe if you haven't left home, because we don't know now what's going to happen. But Mollen will also be letting us know whether it's actually very necessary for you to carry that umbrella or that sweater or jumper for much later on in the day. Well, that's it from the traffic updates. Good morning, I'm Philomena Mastiko.
Well, I'll take it from that. So first, before we look into the forecast and what is happening over our skies today, we also want to take a look into what the UN Environmental Assembly did come out with. Now, just earlier on, I told you that there has been ongoing meetings in Nairobi, Kenya, where the UN Environmental Assembly was meeting up to form up the first commitment that will be addressing the plastic pollution across the continent and also worldwide. And this is what we're calling the plastic treaty. Well, good news coming through. Yeah, the pictures that are being shown there, some of the officials from the UN Environmental Assembly that were in Nairobi, and yesterday they did form a treaty that has now come out to be known as, the UN Plastic Treaty. Now, this is a commitment from close to 170 countries that have, made it a point to make sure that they have put their signatures on, the plastic treaty that will be addressing plastic pollution. But in this, what is really going to happen? Now, leaders have agreed that by 2024, we all have, all the commitments and ambitious targets towards eliminating plastic pollution. But how is this going to be implemented is still the question. However, it's a good move, and most of what we are looking at really in the current or in this era is that there has been rampant dumping of plastics, and this not only endangers the land on which it falls, but also the environment. And what we also know very well, that this does not allow water to go through, so that means that you actually making all this land really dead for agriculture or other purposes that it could be used for, which is why the UN is coming across to make sure that we end this and having countries really get to decide on what happens next. Now, some of the pictures really around plastic dumping, you look at huge masses of land that have been used as plastic dumpings but could be used for some other cases, and mostly what is being talked about is how this is connected to environmental degradation. And that is one thing that the leaders that sat party in Nairobi did have to talk about. And yesterday, I'm happy that we did have, that come across, and we saw world leaders coming together to say, okay, now there is a treaty and you have to abide by this. That means that every country that is party to the UN Environmental Assembly will have to actually adhere to what has been agreed upon within this summit. Because you look into the fact that once countries get such treaties signed, the implementation across different areas is going to be different. And which is why now the ambitious goal that I'm looking at with this assembly is that as these leaders really come together to sign this treaty, are they going to follow up with implementation? As some of these policies that have been highlighted, being done in our countries? That's the big question right there, but at least it is a good start. But also today we're celebrating the World Wildlife Day, and in that we look into how this came about and what is likely to be extinct. And in my view, I will take it to the climate change side. You look at some of the wildlife species that have been endangered due to the changing climate. And one of those actually that have been highlighted here in Uganda is not just Uganda but Africa, the African elephant. And this is the animal that really responds to changes in weather, including temperatures or even rainfall. But we also look at some of the mammals that have been highlighted worldwide as being endangered, and that is the kangaroos. These are reducing in number actually, and not just due to the changing weather but also the slaughter. And we have talked about human animal conflict. This has been ongoing and also has put most of the species really in danger, and that is one thing that has been talked about when we are highlighting Wildlife Day and celebrating it for this day. But you also look into the fact that changes in the environment or the climate do not affect just humans, much as we're the ones contributing a lot to that throughout our activities, but also the moment we form that natural conflict between animals and humans, that also forces them to extinction. So on top of these animals dealing with the conflict, they now have to also deal with the changing weather, because what happens is that now, like for the elephants that have been highlighted, you look into the fact that when the temperatures keep rising and they're unable to cope with the environments they're in, they're going to be forced to move into cooler areas, and that is where we get it wrong. That's where we start to see some of the species actually being endangered. And also across Africa, I think also the antelopes are those animals that have been related to responding to changes in weather. Also still with rising temperatures, they are going to be forced to move to areas that are safer. Now if you have everywhere unsafe, that means that there will be it could be forced to extinction, and we don't want to get to that level, which is why we continue advocating for avoid human animal conflict. Poaching has been one of those things that have led to extinction over the years, and it's something that we're still fighting, which is why the Wildlife Authority actually comes up every year to warn about poaching. So these animals have to deal with all these changes that are natural, but you as humans should be able to help them keep in place and make sure that we are still celebrating wildlife, but having the wildlife to celebrate. Also, what is highlighted across the world is the polar bear. Most of the stories about polar bears are just stories. Not everyone has had the chance to actually get to look at a polar bear at one point. So these have only remained in pictures, but they have been endangered, most especially because of the fact that they do thrive more in cold areas. And in a world where we're talking about melting of snow, we're talking about temperatures rising across the Arctic, that means that these are also endangered with the changing climate and could lead to extinction for some of the species that are now remaining for the polar bears. But away from that, I want to take you through the situation that is going on across the country. We're tapping into the satellites that are overlooking Uganda, real-time data for now. Now, we did start off with that rainy system across Lake Victoria, but as we speak, that system has cleared for most of the areas. It is just moving southwards. That means that could only be going further into Tanzania. So we might have to we might not deal with that system for this morning across that area. However, it has left mostly cloudy conditions across the central part of Lake Victoria Basin as well as western Lake Victoria. We're talking about Kampala, Wakiso, Entebbe, Mukono areas, and also you look at the western part of Lake Victoria where we do have Masaka, Rengo. That area towards the western side of Lake Victoria as well. We have just cloudy conditions, so this system is already moving southwards, and most likely it might not be bringing rains for now for this morning. We only do have still cloudy conditions as well across southwestern part of the country, across Mbarara there, Bushenyi, moving in towards Fort Portal, Kaba, Lake Isoro. That area is having cloudy conditions for this morning. But moving further north, we have woken up to mostly dry weather across northern Uganda, mostly sunny conditions coming across the northern sector, as well as eastern Uganda, Moroto, Amoria, Soroti there, Mbale, Pat Padel, also dealing with sunny conditions for this morning, and most likely that will continue into the afternoon. But we'll go ahead and take a look into your forecast that has been given out by the Uganda National Meteorological Authority this morning to highlight most of the areas across the country now. From the central part of Lake Victoria, where we do have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso, we are forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. As that cloudy condition clears, we will be having intervals of sunny conditions, starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade. Now the western area also clearing into a mix of clouds and sunshine. That will be starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. That is across Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe, as well as Rakai over there, and most likely we will be having changes within the afternoon to rainy conditions. Now southwestern Uganda now dealing with those cloudy conditions. Now those will be developing into light rains across several places within Bara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rubirizi, starting off with a cool 25 degrees centigrade. Across the Mount Elgon Highlands, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko, Sironko, we are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with a warm 26 degrees centigrade, most likely in the afternoon. That will also continue, so we'll have temperatures going higher as the day continues. Now the eastern parts of Lake Victoria, Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with quite a warm day for 27 degrees centigrade, and that area is also likely to maintain similar weather in the afternoon, where we will be looking at much more of those sunny intervals over there. Eastern Uganda already having those sunny conditions, but we do expect some clouds to come in as well, and that will be starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade across Soroti, Katakwi, Moria and Kumi. We're also forecasting the same in the afternoon, so temperatures will even hit the lower 30s for that area. It will only get warmer, so yes, it is another day for you to really have make sure that you have light clothing on. It is really hot over there. Now the eastern parts of Central, where we have Ruwero, Wobblen, Zibururi, Nakaseke, we do have Nakasongola in that category as well. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, much sunny for this morning. Also, that will be starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade, and we do expect more changes in the afternoon. Most likely a few areas will be dealing with isolated showers. Now the central part of northern Uganda, you have Gudu, Kitgum, Padel and Jumani already having those sunny skies over there, but we do expect a mixture of cloudy conditions over there, starting off with a hot 28 degrees centigrade, and that will only be getting much more higher later in the afternoon. Well, we'll leave you at that, and it looks like it is another just a pleasant morning, so at least you can choose to put down that warm jacket and the umbrella. Relax up, it's getting warmer. The rains are done for most areas here across the Lake Victoria Basin, parts of Central, but in the afternoon, especially for Western Uganda, you can look out for those rains that are likely to continue, where also the eastern part of Central, that is across Nakasongola, those areas, Ruwero, you can expect to have a few of those rains, but for now, you can relax up. It's just the beginning of a mix of clouds and sunshine. Quite a pleasant day, if you ask me. Rather pleasant morning across several areas across the country, but also those sunny conditions continue for the northern sector and eastern Uganda. It looks like the rains won't be coming in now, and the forecast did indicate that those rains will be coming through, especially by end of March. Well, I want to wish you a good morning. My name is Mollen, Kenyena.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
On the 3rd of March 2022, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, together with key partners, will be commemorating the World Wildlife Day. The theme of this year's celebration is recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. The celebrations will be held at the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. There will be a live broadcast showcasing the celebrations starting from 11 a.m. on UBC TV. Her Excellency Jessica Alupo, the Vice President of Uganda, will be the chief guest. This broadcast is powered by the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities with support from UA, UEC, EU, UNDP and the WWF.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN. Your MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily bundle of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150*10# or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN. MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Double MBs! For the same price on daily bundles with Airtel, now you get double MBs for twice your enjoyment. For 250 shillings, you now get double. That's 30 MBs. For only 500 shillings, you get 80 MBs. And for 1,000 Uganda shillings, enjoy 180 MBs, all valid for 24 hours. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to enjoy double MBs on your daily bundles for the exact same price. With Airtel, the smartphone network. In March 2018, Total Energies launched the Welders Training and Certification Program aimed at improving the employability of Ugandans from the Albertine region and East African crude oil pipeline areas.
GIZ E4D project is working with Total Energies, where we are targeting to train at the end of it 350 welders, and we're expected to train more.
I see myself working maybe in the oil and gas industry, being an international certified welder, because I have acquired the skills.
I'm a lady, but doing something which is generally perceived to be for men. It makes you actually feel special. It makes you feel wow.
I am ready to support the oil and gas sector by being a quality welder. I thank you, Total, and I thank the government of Uganda.
Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
National Medical Stores is a government agency mandated to buy, store and distribute medicines and medical supplies to government health facilities in Uganda. For Ugandans that we serve, help us serve you better by taking your individual responsibilities seriously. Report theft of government medicines and medical supplies to the nearest police station or to the State House Health Monitoring Unit. Do not pay for any medicines or medical supplies labeled Government of Uganda, not for sale. Do all that is within your means to stop all preventable preventable diseases including COVID-19. Continue observing the Ministry of Health Standard Operating Procedures SOPs, including wearing a face mask whenever you are in public spaces. Visit a designated health facility to receive your COVID-19 vaccination and a booster dose for those that are eligible. Prevention is better than cure. National Medical Stores, passionate about your life.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co Uganda, Office of the President.
Live